Good evening, class. My name is Bobby Evans, and tonight I will be doing Session 4 video journal for my project management course. Throughout the next 3 to 5 minutes, I will be answering 5 questions. Question 1. Identify and define the 4 options Mulcahy identifies for risk response planning, and provide an example of when you used one of these options to mitigate the risk. And finally, did it reduce the risk? Well, option 1 is reserve method 1/10%. This is basically adding 10% for the contingency to the overall project budget. The second one is reserve method 2, and it's guess. Well, it's a guessing game. You're going to make your guess and you're going to add it over to the overall project cost and schedule. Reserve method 3. This is the preferred method, expected monetary value. This is a lot more factual than it is guessing, using realistic data and adding a percentage to the overall project budget. Reserve method 4, the Monte Carlo simulation. This is based off the Monte Carlo simulation we learned in chapter 6. If you use this, then basically you could have the option of building off of it. Well, me and my project, I use reserve method 3, the expected monetary value, because like I said, it's more factual than it is guessing. Basically what I do is I usually add 5 to 10% to the overall project cost. So if something were to happen, for example, weather, rain, ice, that would not cause me to go over cost on my project. And yes, this does reduce risk, because the worst case scenario, you have to use your values that you added to your overall project. Whatever's left over, you can actually have the option of giving that back to the customer. Question 2, explain the difference between contingency plan and fallback plan, and provide an example within my project. Well, a contingency plan is planned action to be taken if the threat or opportunity happens. A fallback is another plan put into play if the contingency plan does not work. Specifically for my project, one of my risks was weather, inclement weather. So what my team did is we'll build a trusted tent to put over, in this situation, our HVAC unit. However, the fallback would be if lightning strikes. If lightning does strike, basically we do everything we can to protect human life. We stop the project for that day, or at least during the lightning storm, and we go back to it upon completion. So that would be my fallback. Basically, you just get out of the way if lightning strikes. Question 3. Explain the difference between risk response plan and risk management. Well, risk response. This is what can be done to reduce the risk of the overall project by decreasing the probability of impact. Risk management is a management of the risk on all levels to reduce the chance of any negative impact related to risk. Question 4. What can you recommend when the cost of risk mitigation is greater than the cost impact to risk? Well, if the cost impact is lower than the mitigation plan, then my recommendation would be to accept the risk without any mitigation. And finally, question 5. What mitigation actions did DMI implement? Transfer of risk, risk acceptance, risk avoidance, or risk mitigation? I was kind of torn between this, so I'm going to give 2 answers here. I'd have to say that Nehemiah implemented risk acceptance and risk mitigation. He accepted the risk because he simply didn't avoid it. He knew they were going to be attacked. However, he did have a plan in place that would prevent greater destruction. What he did is he scattered people at the lowest points of the wall, so before they got up to the middle of the wall, they'd be able to mitigate the risk of overall negative impact by taking out a lot of the enemy at the lower levels of the wall. Well, this concludes my session 4 video journal, and I will see you next week for the last one. Thank you.